All right. So I definitely recorded this the other day, but I was really slouched over and I wasn't talking loud enough. So this time I am going to re-record it. So this story is going to be about a super toxic work environment where I was extremely manipulated to work for somebody who was underpaying me. If anything, he owed me a lot of money by the end of it all, and it's just ridiculous. I just want to share this story so that other people don't end up staying in my situation. I compare this to a toxic relationship because he is very manipulative. He would try to say different things to tug on your emotions to make you stay. And if you don't do what he wants you to do, then he threatens you. So yeah, let's get into it.
Thank you for kisses.
So let's bring it all the way back. After graduation, right? I graduated in 2017. After graduation, I decided to take a year off and just kind of bartend and travel. I felt like I've been doing school my whole life, and this is the one free time finally that I get to travel and not have responsibilities. And I really wanted to take advantage of that. And that's what I did. I bartended for a whole year, and I traveled a lot, did an amazing trip to Southeast Asia. And by the end of it all, I just could not, it was a very tough transition to go back into a career, or I mean, even to start my career. By this time, I had gotten a marketing degree from UC Riverside, and that's what I wanted to do. Like, I knew it from the deep bottom of my heart that that's what I wanted to do. You know, I got super interested in marketing because I just loved, you know, figuring out how people think, what makes them turn. Actually, let's bring it back even a little bit more. I started off at UC Riverside with a psychology major because I wanted to learn and really dig into what makes people tick and what makes people feel a certain way. I am a very emotional person, and that's what I wanted to put onto others. Like, I wanted to make people feel things. I was really hoping to land a position where I get to study my audience, study my consumers, and create experiences for them, lead them into thinking a certain way, lead them into feeling certain things. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. However, at that time, I was a little discouraged, I'm not gonna lie, because I went and I did a lot of like job research, and a lot of the marketing positions that I found were actually sales positions. Or if they were marketing, they were not exactly in what I wanted to do. I was very specific and particular. I wanted to, you know, kind of control all the little things that others may not know about. Like the color scheme, the smell of things, the lighting, the little sounds that you hear that may be so minuscule to you, but all actually comes and adds up into a certain experience. Because I found so many marketing positions that were actually sales positions, I was actually really discouraged. I felt like I knew what I wanted to do was in marketing, but because I did not find any position that encompasses what I wanted to do, I was starting to question, like, you know, where do I belong? This was when I met this guy. Let's call him Daniel. So Daniel is a regular at the bar that I worked at. One night, I was just, you know, it was a slow night, and I was just hanging out at the bar, talking to people, and we made small talk. One of my customers had asked me like how was my life going and what I was doing, and so I told him about my job search. Daniel, sitting on the other side of the bar, overhears everything that I was saying, and he started questioning me certain things, questions that really intrigued me, like he knew what he was talking about. But he did say that he wasn't in marketing. I had told him my vision of what I wanted to do in marketing. And that was when he had told me that he was a brand strategist, and he was doing exactly what I wanted to do, exactly what I was searching for. Before then, I have never heard about brand strategy or brand strategist. but it sounded like exactly what I wanted to do. So right then and there, I knew, okay, I have to learn from this guy. One, I was like, wow, now I know exactly what to look for in my job search. And two, like, this guy's really interesting. Let me see what he's about. That's one of the perks about working at the bar, is that you get to meet a lot of really interesting people that you might not meet otherwise. So as the conversation went on, he ended up offering me a job. But his exact words were, I cannot pay you at the moment, but I can offer you a job in my company in 6 months when I do have the funds to pay you. At that rate, I did not care. Like I said, I was just really passionate about what I wanted to do, and I just wanted to be in the room. Like, I just needed somebody to give me an opportunity. So I had told this guy that I would work for him for free and that it was fine. The value of it all came from the learning experience and just being in the room. The very next day, I had called him and I ended up setting up an appointment with him to meet him at the office. Right when I got to the office, I was a little taken back. It wasn't really an office. It was more so a print shop. But at the same time, I could not judge it by its cover, so at least I would go in and hear what he had to say. He spoke about a lot of very interesting projects that were coming up, and he had made the company seem like it was going to skyrocket and become IPO. Like, that was his goal. And he had made it seem like we were going to reach there in a couple years. This guy had talked about very high number projections that at that time, it sounded ridiculous to me. But because it was my first job, my first time being in the field, in my head, this guy must know more than me, right? Because he's been in the field for so long and this is my first job. So what the hell do I know? I was skeptical, but I listened and I gave it a shot. Mind you, as a bartender, I was on a schedule where I would be drinking every single day. I was drinking way more than when I was in college. Literally, I was not drinking at all in college. I would wake up every single day with hangovers. I would wake up at 3 p.m., shower, get something to eat, and it's all over again. This was a very different lifestyle, and it, as you can imagine, is a very hard transition into a 9-to-5. So when this guy had offered me this job where I can work remote, where he really valued my opinion, right off the bat during that first meeting, he had me giving my input on a lot of projects and asking what I wanted to do. And he gave me the opportunity to lead this new restaurant and be the brand director for that restaurant, which is extremely exciting. As an entry level, you just don't get that opportunity. I felt like, wow, this guy either really saw something in me or he's just taking a really big leap of faith. I was able to work remote. I was able to still keep my bartending job, which meant I could have double the income. Who doesn't want that? Which was very helpful considering he had said that they did not have money to pay me the first 6 months. I took it as like an internship. It was fine. After a very successful launch for that first project, he told me that he would start paying me right away, that there was money coming in from that specific project and it would go directly to me. It was not a large amount considering, it's at that time he had made it seem like I would get paid by the project basis, like however much project I would get, I would then times that by whatever base fee is, almost like I was working as a contracted employee. At that time, each of those projects, or as he was projecting it to be, each project would give me $750 a month. That time, I only had one project, so I was only getting paid $750, which was fine. At that time, I had my bartending job to really supplement my earnings. By the way, side note, I live in the Bay Area, so it's really expensive here. The apartment that my boyfriend and I are living in right now is $3,100. It's a 2-bedroom, just to give you an idea of how little $750 was really to us. Even though $750 was very little per month, I still had my bar income, so I was not panicking. I was able to support myself before that job just based off of my bar income. So technically this would be extra money on top of what I was already making. And I was getting experience for it, and I was getting exposure. So everything just seemed like it was aligning perfect. Like somehow I was at the right place at the right time. And I was very, very grateful for that. The first couple months were good. After the first successful launch, We started doing other projects. However, when we were doing those other projects, I was not getting paid for it. We ended up doing a lot of projects that ended up owing him money, or projects that were nonprofit, or projects that just never really took off, no matter how much prep and planning went into it. And since we were helping businesses start their journey, we would not get paid until it took off. That was just the way that he had ran things. So at first I thought $750 is okay. That's one project. At that time, we had so many projects coming up. That sounds so promising. I thought, okay, it'll be in no time till I make enough, have at least 3 projects on hand to really be able to cover my living expenses and for me to leave the bar. That did not happen right away. I was very hopeful in this position. I was very optimistic. Everything seemed like it was going in the right direction, and it was such an easier transition into a career than I had imagined. I still had a lot of freedom. I was able to travel because everything was remote, and it was just a great position to be in my life. I thought, wow, everything is working in my favor. With this job opportunity, I was able to work whenever I wanted and only come in some afternoons for meetings with clients, which was great. At that time, I was living out of the city. I was living an hour away. So I obviously did not want to come in during traffic hour. Everything aligned. I was doing what I wanted to do. I loved what I was doing. And I thought I was learning from this genius guy who had similar motivations and similar ambitions as me. He really valued what I had to say. He allowed me to speak during very important meetings with top decision makers. What I had to say had weight, which is very hard to come by as an entry level. So I thought, man, this is great. But it wasn't long until he started missing checks. And at that time, I get it. Some companies go through bad patches. And he had created this family environment within this small company that we felt like we had to sacrifice certain things for the betterment of the whole team. He manipulated me into thinking that I would get paid really good really soon, that we had so many projects lined up. And at that point, I had the 1 project and 3 more coming. So I thought, man, 4 projects, 4 times $750, I'm set. I'm okay. I'm good. I did not have to work at the bar anymore. That's what I thought. However, that was the problem. That never happened. If anything, he ended up owing me a lot of checks. There were always excuses. I get that a company can have a bad patch, but as you soon will know, for the whole time I was there, the whole company wasn't a bad patch, no matter how much money we made. For those who do not know, San Francisco is extremely expensive. I'm talking about $1,500 for a room expensive, and that's excluding utilities. So $750 just did not cut it. Because I was not getting paid as much as I wanted, as quickly as I wanted, I had to stay in my bartending job longer than expected. It was not by choice, but out of necessity to supplement the little income that I was making. I thought things would get better in 6 months because, as you remember, he had mentioned that he couldn't pay me the first 6 months, but he was projected to receive enough money, a good chunk of money, by that 6-month mark. So I thought, it's okay, I will ride it out 6 months, then I could get paid. I compared it to an internship, which is fine. I did not mind at that time. 6 months came and went, and I was still only getting paid for 1 project, even though at that time I had worked on many projects. However, none of them were paid. This was understandable. Our company earned money by helping others start their business, and when their business isn't started, then our payment gets deferred, which meant all of our salary trickled down, gets deferred. On top of that, there were just a lot of red flags. He was a very manipulative person. He would make it seem like he really had your best interest in mind, when in reality, he did not. And I'll tell you why. He spent a lot of company money like it was his own. He would brag about how he had nothing to his name, that if people sue him, they won't get anything out of him. And he also bragged about how petty he was. On the very first day, he talked about this story of this lady who supposedly came in and had an interview with him, but did not actually want to work there. He had made it seem that she was just spying on him or something. I don't even know. Anyways, he took the next several years trying to get back at her. Several years. He bragged about how he would send fake customers to her, how he had connected her to fake gigs to a point where this lady was misled into flying out of state to this convention where she thought she was going to meet a client, and the guy never showed because it was actually his doing. Petty. I should have listened. I knew that it was risky for me to work with him. Like, that was already a red flag. But at that time, I think I was just really tempted by all the opportunities that I did not care. In my head, I told myself, as long as I don't get on his bad side, then that will not happen to me, right? 6 months came and went, and I was still stuck on one check. This was when I started reevaluating if I should really stay with the company. One way or another, I was always promised that money would come soon. He would make these big numbers up saying, oh, there's like 40K coming next week, or there's blah, blah, blah coming next week. But we would not see any of it. Supposedly, right when the money comes in, it would go out to pay other debts from previously. And we just never ended up getting the wages that we deserved. He spent company money like it was his personal money. And I'm talking about this guy is a drunk. He pays for his reputation because that is what he has to uphold. He needed to uphold a good, respectable reputation in the community so that others will think that he is this big shot and go to him and give him jobs. He is smart in certain things, but I've always looked at it as, there's a very thin line between genius and psychotic. And I just wasn't sure which one he was yet. He would spend hundreds a night on drinking or partying, hundreds during dinners. He was a big spender. And this was company money that would otherwise go into paying us. He manipulated his employees to think that he had their best interest in mind by always bringing them to events and connecting them with certain people. Or whenever he would meet with a client and have really nice dinners, he would bring employees along, like that was his family. I'm not arguing that he doesn't treat them like family, but there's just a very problematic way of handling finances and just handling the structure of the company as a whole. I wanted a change. So I had told him, after 6 months of being there and after 2-3 missed checks out of those 6 months, I told him that I probably should look at other venues. This was when he satisfied my wants by going and getting me another gig, getting me another project that was paid. I thought, cool, okay, maybe things are looking up. We were in a bad patch. The ball is finally rolling and it's going to continue rolling. That lasted for a couple months, maybe. I don't even know. He was missing every 2 to 3 checks. It was ridiculous. And those checks would be deferred until the big lump sum comes in. Where is it? He had this narrative that if you could ride it out with the company, then you will be very heavily rewarded at the end by telling us we had partnership in the company, we had shares in the company, that technically everybody who worked under him had a slice of the pie. And it was very tempting at that time because the company had a slice of the pie in all the projects that they did. That's why it's problematic. Instead of getting paid the amount, we were deferred payments because we had parts in the company and that we had to sacrifice and get through this hard patch. He just turned out to be very manipulative. And that's extremely ironic because if you know what brand strategists do, we manipulate the situation and we paint it the way that we want it to be perceived. He's always talked about how, there's good manipulation and bad manipulation, and you have to have both in order to be in the position that we're in. He was constantly telling us that there was no money. Yet, when I had asked him for his opinion on Van Venture, which is a business that me and my partner now own, he suddenly had money to put in and invest and be a partner. But you had no money to pay us and now you have money to invest? How are you looking out for my best interest? There were always a lot of lies. He only saw what he wanted to see. For example, he had very ridiculous, impossible projections that even the CPA was very, very skeptical about. But because the CPA did not technically say that it was impossible, what he got from the whole conversation, and I was there, was, oh, the CPA did not say it was impossible, therefore it's a great projection and a great system that I have created. Were we in the same conversation? Like, I swear I heard something different. He was also very emotional. He let his anger control his work. He would throw fits at the office. He would yell and call his employees names. There was once where he even tossed a bottle or punched a wall or something. Like, there was a time when he created a hole in the wall because he was so angry at his own employees. He was very unprofessional. He would throw fits. He was also a big gossip. He would bad talk about a lot of people in the industry, which was just very unprofessional. He held on to past negative interactions. Like I said, he was very petty. There was a time when I went into a business pitch with him where this organization was pitching their idea to us. It was a nonprofit event that we were doing. And right when they had mentioned this lady, we will call her Angela. Right when the organization had mentioned Angela, Daniel got very angry. Right away, he had bad talked about her, saying things like, oh, saying that she is extremely hard to deal with, and that if she is on the case or if she is on the project, that he will not touch it. Needless to say, I never met this chick. She was never on any projects with us. There was an Asian American woman empowerment event that took place in the East Bay that I really wanted to go to because I really wanted to hear from a lot of the speakers there, and I just wanted to be inspired by those around me, by professional people that were in the industry. When I had told him on our work group chat that I wanted to go to this event and I had asked if anyone else wanted to go with me, his response was, and I quote,
I banned that event. Anyone going will be my enemy.
Tag me. He tagged me. Okay, I was really confused. Then he goes on to explain this was the same lady that he had talked about during the nonprofit business pitch that we named Angela. Turns out she was a host or an MC of some sort for that event, and that was why he did not want me to go. What? I was so confused because of his own past interactions with her and bad blood with her. He bans me from going to an event where I could learn and empower myself and grow in my personal life and in my professional life. Like, are you serious? Are you serious? I was so excited for this event. His views on situations were very skewed, and he only saw what he wanted to see. Anything that remotely went against his beliefs would be banished, that they were evil, or he would just have a lot of bad stuff to say to make it seem like he had so many reasons to stop that relationship, even though it was not his call, it was the other party's call. He had very far-fetched conclusions. For example, if he believed a dog person is this and a cat person is this, and if I tell him that I do not fall into those categories, or I do not fall into the stereotypes that he was projecting, then I was wrong. That it's not something wrong about his ideology, but something wrong with me. At that point, I just learned to not even debate with him anymore. I just don't even point it out anymore because there's no point. Like, there was no way of winning. In addition to all of those red flags, I mean, we go back to the missing checks. He was missing checks so often. Even when he had upped my salary from one project to payment for 2 projects, he was missing checks like every other month. It got to a point where it was so muddy that I didn't even know which checks were missing and how many he's made and just like what he was paying for anymore. Like, it kept getting stretched. In the beginning, he paid exactly at 1 month. Next month, he paid a month and 8 days. Month after that, a month and 10 days. Like, it just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. He created this environment where we were a family and that we must be loyal to this family. And if we stepped out of line, or if we wanted to just fight for our own livable wage, then that we were being disloyal and that we were not fitting to be in this family that he was so proud of. I don't know, I just kept creating like a pro and cons list literally every other month, and somehow I always ended up staying. Not by choice exactly, but it was just like, okay, the ball just kept rolling, and to a point where I was like, okay, I guess I'm just in it for the ride. I felt like he knew a lot of people and he was giving me a lot of exposure. That was priceless to me. I just really wanted to learn. In addition to that, I was honestly scared to leave. As you recall of that story that he had told me from the very first day about how he spent years going after this lady and gave her all these fake projects and sent her out of the city or out of states. I just did not want to get on his bad side. But that is what made it so toxic, that at this rate I constantly was making excuses for him. I constantly, saw the red flags but chose to ignore it because he had made it seem like